Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's as fascinating as it is unsettling: the mysterious connection between birthmarks and past life wounds. Imagine this. You're standing in front of a mirror looking at that little mark on your arm, your back, or your leg. Maybe it's a scar-shaped birthmark, or a strange discoloration you've had all your life. Doctors say it's just genetics. But what if it's more than that? What if that mark is not random? What if some of these marks are actual imprints, scars from lives lived long before this one? Stay with me because we'll explore the chilling and mysterious connection between birthmarks and reincarnation. And I want you to join me, because by the end of this video, you might see your own body in a completely different way. First, let's lay the groundwork. What exactly are we talking about when we link birthmarks to past lives? The theory, which has roots in many spiritual traditions, suggests that certain birthmarks correspond precisely to wounds, injuries, or even the fatal blow experienced in a previous incarnation. This isn't just folklore. There are incredible documented cases that defy conventional explanation. For thousands of years, humans have wondered why we are born with certain marks on our skin. Some are small and hidden, some are large and very visible. Ancient cultures didn't see these as random. They believed birthmarks were messages from the soul. In India, the belief in reincarnation is deeply woven into spiritual life. Families often say that birthmarks reveal how you died in a past life. For example, a burn-like mark could mean you perished in a fire. A long line across the body might suggest a wound from a sword or spear. Even today, some families bring children with unusual marks to priests or spiritual healers, asking, "What does this mark mean about their past life?" In Turkey and Central Asia, there was an even stranger practice. When someone died, some villagers would mark the body with soot or ashes on the place of the fatal wound. Why? Because they believed when the soul reincarnated, it would carry that exact mark into the new body. In other words, the soul didn't just take memories with it, it carried scars. In China, old folk traditions say birthmarks can show how you left the world in a previous life. A dark red mark, for example, might mean a violent death. Meanwhile, light marks were sometimes seen as blessings or unfinished spiritual lessons. And in Philippine folklore, elders once whispered that unusual marks on the skin could mean you were connected to ancestors or carrying unfinished business from a soul journey. Some even said a birthmark could show where your spirit guide touched you before you entered the world again. If we go even further back into ancient Greece, philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras believed in the cycle of rebirth. They didn't talk directly about birthmarks, but they did say the soul carries imprints, memories, and experiences that may show themselves in subtle ways on the body. So from Asia to Europe, there's one common thread. Birthmarks are not accidents. They are soul stories written on the skin. The scientific investigator. Now, scientifically, birthmarks are caused by various factors: excess pigment cells, blood vessel abnormalities, and so on. But what about the ones that are unusually shaped in unusual places, or seem to tell a story all on their own? That's where it gets interesting. We can't talk about this topic without mentioning Dr. Ian Stevenson. He was a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia who dedicated decades of his life to meticulously researching cases of children who claimed to remember past lives. And a significant portion of his research involved correlating birthmarks with reported past life injuries. Stevenson traveled the world, documenting over 2,500 cases. He looked for specific criteria: a child spontaneously remembering details of a past life, verifiable facts about that past life, and crucially for our discussion, physical marks or deformities that matched the manner of death or injury in the supposed previous incarnation. His work is controversial, of course, but it's incredibly thorough and has presented some compelling evidence that's hard to simply dismiss. Real cases that shocked the world. Now this is where things get chilling. We're not just talking about beliefs or theories anymore. We're talking about real people, real children with real memories and birthmarks that told their stories. Let's dive into one of Dr. Stevenson's most famous and compelling cases. Case 1. This involves an Indian boy named Maha Ram, born with a large, circular birthmark right in the center of his chest. From a very young age, Maha Ram began talking about a previous life where he was a man named Sundar Singh, who was killed by a shotgun blast to the chest during a hunting trip. He described specific details about Sundar Singh's family, his village, and the circumstances of his death. Stevenson investigated, and he found that Sundar Singh was indeed a real person who had died exactly as Maha Ram described, shot in the chest with a shotgun. Even more astonishing, Sundar Singh's autopsy report confirmed the entrance wound was precisely where Maha Ram's birthmark was located. Think about that for a moment. A birthmark, a story, and verifiable facts aligning perfectly. It's hard to just call that a coincidence, isn't it? Case 2, the two-fingered boy. Here's another fascinating example from Stevenson's files, this time involving a boy born in Turkey named Semih Tutuzmaz. Semih was born with a deformed right ear and only 2 fingers on his right hand. His ring finger and pinky finger were missing. Semih, like many of these children, began to speak about a previous life. He claimed he was a man named Hassai who lived in a neighboring village. Hassai had been killed in a farming accident where his ear was torn off and his hand mangled by a threshing machine. Stevenson again investigated and found records of a Hassai who died exactly as Semih described, with injuries precisely matching Semih's birth defects. The specific fingers missing on Hassai's mangled hand were the same ones Semih was born without. It's these kinds of specific details, corroborated by external evidence, that make these cases so compelling and difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence or fantasy. Case 3. The Burmese boy with the rifle wound. A boy in Burma was born with 2 unusual marks on his body. One was a small, perfectly round mark on his chest. The other, a larger, irregular mark on his back. From the time he could speak, he would say, "I was a soldier. I died from a gunshot." His parents were shocked. How could a little boy know such things? But the placement of the marks told a story. The round mark looked like an entry wound. The large mark on the back looked like an exit wound. Dr. Ian Stevenson, the psychiatrist who studied reincarnation, investigated. The boy's detailed memories, paired with the wounds, aligned with real cases of soldiers who died in the region during wartime. Imagine being his parents, looking at those marks and realizing they weren't random at all. Case 4. The Indian girl who remembered her murder. In India, a little girl was born with a strange, dark birthmark across her head and face. She would tell her family over and over again, "I used to live in another village. I was killed there." At first, her family brushed it off as childish imagination. But the girl was persistent. She remembered names, places, and even the manner of her death. "I was struck on the head with an axe." Researchers followed her story and discovered that years before she was born, a woman in the very village she described had been murdered with an axe blow to the head. The birthmark on the girl's face was in the same spot where the wound had been recorded. How do we explain that? Coincidence? Or memory carried through the soul? Case 5. The American boy who remembered World War II. Not all cases come from Asia. One of the most famous stories comes from the United States. A young boy was born with a dark, odd-shaped birthmark on his side. As soon as he could talk, he had nightmares of crashing in a plane. He would wake up screaming, describing fire, ocean, and the feeling of being trapped. His parents were puzzled. They weren't teaching him about war. But the boy insisted, "I was a pilot. My plane was shot. I died in the water." The parents began to research and discovered that his memories matched the life of a World War II pilot who had died in combat. The location of the pilot's fatal wound? The same place where the boy had his birthmark. What makes this story even stranger is that the boy had knowledge of planes, ship names, and battle details, things a toddler could never have known. Case 6. The Turkish boy who solved his own murder. One of the most shocking cases happened in Turkey. A boy was born with a large scar-like birthmark on his head. From a young age, he told his parents he had been murdered in a past life. But he didn't stop there. He named the village, the man who killed him, and even described the weapon. When the family went to the village, the boy confronted the man he accused, an older villager who looked stunned. In front of witnesses, the boy identified him and said, "You killed me with an axe to the head." Later, villagers confirmed that indeed, a man in the area had mysteriously disappeared years earlier. The suspected killer had never been caught. The boy's birthmark matched the exact wound the missing man was rumored to have suffered. Each of these cases leaves us with a haunting question. Are these children simply imagining? Or are their souls remembering wounds their new bodies carried over as birthmarks? Alright, let's pause for a moment. We've heard all these incredible cases from around the world, but now let's bring this mystery closer to you. Think about your own body. Do you have a birthmark? Maybe it's small, hidden somewhere only you know. Or maybe it's big, noticeable, the kind of mark people ask about when they see it. Now, take a second to picture it in your mind. Where is it located? What shape does it have? Does it look like a scar, a burn, or even a cut? Here's why I'm asking. As we've discussed earlier, some researchers say that birthmarks don't just mark the body, they might reveal something about how you died, or what you experienced in a past life. So let's try a little reflection together. If your birthmark is near your throat, do you ever feel uneasy about choking, drowning, or being unable to breathe? If it's on your chest, do you ever dream of being stabbed or have an unusual fear of sharp objects? If it's on your back, do you feel uncomfortable when people touch that area, even gently? And if it's on your head, do you get recurring headaches or strange dreams you can't explain? Now, here's the spooky part. Many of the children studied around the world reported exactly these kinds of fears and dreams, and their birthmarks matched the wounds they claimed to have suffered in a previous life. Other types of marks and cultural interpretations. But it's not always about fatal wounds either. Some cultures believe birthmarks can represent emotional scars, or even marks of significance from a previous life, not necessarily violent. For example, some traditions see certain birthmarks as indicators of specific talents or roles held in a past life. For instance, a birthmark on the wrist might indicate a past life as a skilled artisan, or one on the chest could suggest a deeply emotional past. While these are harder to prove scientifically, they show the widespread human inclination to seek meaning in these unique physical markers. Skepticism and counterarguments. Of course, it's essential to look at the other side. Skeptics argue that these are simply coincidences. Birthmarks are common, and given the vast number of people in the world, some will inevitably align with a tragic event. They also point to confirmation bias, where we tend to notice and remember things that fit our theories, while ignoring those that don't. They'll also suggest that details of past lives could be unconsciously absorbed from family stories or local folklore, rather than being genuine memories. These are all valid points that need to be considered when evaluating such extraordinary claims. So, where does that leave us? Are these cases undeniable proof of reincarnation and the persistence of the soul? Or are they simply fascinating anomalies that modern science hasn't fully explained yet? What's clear is that the work of researchers like Dr. Stevenson has given us a wealth of anecdotal evidence that challenges our understanding of life and consciousness. Whether you believe in past lives or not, these stories are incredibly powerful and make you wonder. So, The next time you look at your birthmark in the mirror, don't just shrug and say, "It's nothing, it's just genetics." What if it's not random? What if it's a story your soul refuses to forget? A memory burned into your skin so that even after death, you carry it into the next life. Think about it, our bodies are temporary. Skin sheds, cells die and regenerate. But the soul? The soul remembers. And maybe, just maybe, birthmarks are the breadcrumbs it leaves behind, whispers of wounds and unfinished journeys. But here's the question I'll leave with you today. If your body carries scars from the past, then what about your fears, your phobias, your dreams? Are they just tricks of the mind, or echoes of lives you've lived before? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your story in the comments below, because this channel isn't just about me telling mysteries. It's about all of us piecing them together. And if you want to keep exploring the secrets of the soul, the hidden teachings of reincarnation, and mysteries that science still can't explain, then don't forget to hit like, tap subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next journey. Because who knows, the next video might reveal something about your soul.